Sooner fans, Longhorn Nation, to the only podcast dedicated to the greatest rivalry in all of college football, the University of Texas and the University of Oklahoma, the Bevo Podcast, hosted by John Whitson and Kevin Miller. And this is episode number 3. Again, just like we said last time, we're so excited by the support we've had for the first 2 episodes, and couldn't be more excited to be here doing number 3 today. Right off the top of the bat, I want to apologize for some audio issues we had in episode 2. Kevin's wife and my wife pointed them out very clearly to us. So we want to make sure that everybody knows we acknowledge them, we're working on it, and we hope to have our quality issues working out, and all for the better. Kevin, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Excited to be here. Excited to be back. Again, like you said, we appreciate all the love we've been getting so far, all the support. And we just love talking football, love talking Red River Shootout football. It's the best.
Kevin, 100 days today. As of this taping, 100 days to kick off.
Yes.
Listen, those week 1 games look amazing. I'm excited.
There's some good ones. Yeah, Oregon and Georgia, hosting Georgia out there at Thompson, Notre Dame, Ohio State that night. It's going to be great.
We need to get into the SEC, man, so we can start having some better games early. I'm telling you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Oklahoma fan is not fired up for UTEP game 1. It's just, is that who? I think that's who we're playing. I don't even know if we're playing
UTEP and Kent State, I think, week 2.
Yeah.
And then Nebraska, of course. So that'll be fun.
Before we dive in, let me give a shout out to our title sponsor, Brown O'Haver. Kevin and I both work for Brown O'Haver. We are public insurance adjusters. We work for the insured, not the insurance company. So if you've had an insurable loss to your property, residential or commercial, give us a call, 405-735-5510. Let us check it out. Let us see if we can make you more money and get it to you faster. We've been doing it since 2006 here in Oklahoma, and our home company since 1988. We know our way around an insurance policy. We've helped a number of clients throughout the state and really throughout the nation. So give us a call, 405-735-5510. So Kevin, I'm a little embarrassed. We had a Buck Kiss Award winner in the Brown O'Haver office yesterday.
Yes.
And you've talked to him before, right?
I have, several times, yeah.
As a Texas fan, you probably hated him as a player, but as a dude, he's a pretty good dude, right?
Yeah. The first time I met him, I'm just like, man, this guy's caused so much hurt for our fan base. But no, he's a great dude.
He's a good dude, and he does remotes from our office periodically, not as often as the voice of the Sooners, Toby Rowland, but and he was in a great mood. He was really talkative yesterday during the breaks. I mean, it was fun. It was super fun having him here at our office. But he caught me off guard with a question, and I kind of feel like he probably doesn't respect me anymore.
Okay. What happened? I missed that.
He asked me, we're just hanging out, and kind of out of the blue, he said, "Hey, John, who's your favorite band?"
Okay.
And Kevin, I panicked.
It's a loaded question.
I'm thinking to myself, there were so many thoughts going through my head, like, number 1, what is my favorite band? I don't even know if I know. Number 2, who does Teddy want my favorite band to be? Because that's really what you want to answer. And, just all of these. And then for a brief second, I couldn't even think of a name of a band. And so at the last minute, I threw out, I like AC/DC. I like old school rock and roll. And he gave me this look like, what AC? And it was like, if you've ever seen A Christmas Story where the kid goes, I'll have a football, and he's like, why did I say football? I didn't mean to say football. I want to Red Rider. I feel like I should have just said, you know what, man, I don't know. I really don't have a favorite band. I should have been honest.
Yeah.
But instead I panicked. And
the guy's an All-American. What are you supposed to do, right?
I'm worried that Teddy Lehman thinks I'm a big loser because I said AC/DC. And the truth is, I like AC/DC. I don't know that they're my favorite band. I tried to back it up with, hey, I'm a country fan. They don't really have bands. But it just feels stupid.
Did he tell you his favorite band?
No, I think he was so shocked by my answer of AC/DC that he just moved on.
Didn't even go there. Okay.
Yeah, I think he was just like, this guy doesn't even know what he's
It's
talking
all right,
about.
but he's a good dude, so hopefully he's not judging you too harshly.
I'm hoping that I rank so low on his scale that he doesn't even remember what I said.
Okay,
That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that John from Brown O'Haver doesn't even register on his day yesterday, and he doesn't remember that I said AC/DC was my favorite band.
Man, these things happen.
Yeah, unfortunately, they happen to be a lot. But this was a Butkus Award winner, I think relevant to the show. The recipient of one of the greatest plays ever in a OU Texas game, if not college football game, on the receiving end of a Superman play.
It was heartbreaking, by the way. And every time I see him, I'm reminded of it.
Every time I see him, I'm reminded of it, and I freaking love it.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
But anyway,
you're not bringing Roy Williams around, though, right?
Dude, if I could get Roy Williams here for a remote, I would pay a heck of a lot more than I pay the ref right now.
Man, I might have to take that day off. I can't.
What if you were able to use your Texas connections and get your Roy Williams, and I got my Roy Williams, and just got him on the screen? That would be amazing.
It would be, but I mean, God never lost to him.
I know that's what would be so fun about it.
I know.
We would only be reliving good memories.
We need somebody who at least beat them.
What you want, Peter? You want Peter Gardier to show up alongside
I was thinking more along the lines of Colt McCoy or somebody like that.
You think? Yeah, if we could get Colt McCoy, that would be legit.
Aim high.
That would be Colt. Subscribe, like us, send a message and comments. We'll get you hooked up. So, hey, our first two episodes were about the coaches, and I think we did a great job of setting the framework of the programs, kind of where they're at today, how we got there. The feedback I got, some people thought I went too easy on Lincoln Riley. Just for the record, for all your listeners out there, I think he's a dweeb as well. I just feel like the horse has been kicked enough, and I didn't have to continue to beat it dead. Does that make sense, Kevin?
It does make sense, but OU fans are still upset. And I was talking to my father-in-law, and he agreed with you. He wants Lincoln he thinks Lincoln will do bad at USC. He doesn't think he'll be the guy to bring them back. He doesn't think he's good enough. So
your father-in-law is probably right.
Yeah,
he seems like he probably knows.
He's a smart guy. He is.
But anyway, to transition from the coaches, we thought we'd dig out some of our favorite OU Texas games. And for all the listeners, we had this grand plan of doing 6 games, 3 of each in the same show. And then when Kevin and I started prepping for the show, we said, there's no way we're going to keep, 6 games under 35, 40 minutes. So we're going to take these one at a time, have as much fun as we can. And if we find a stopping point at the 30, 35-minute mark, we'll stop and we'll tape another episode. We'll pick it back up.
We'll be back. Absolutely.
But I'm excited about this. Since Oklahoma was our last major topic discussed and the Oklahoma coaches, I'm going to defer to the second half and allow you, Texas fan, to pick one of your 3 most memorable OU Texas games. Go ahead. You have the floor, Kevin.
Okay, well, if we're going in chronological order here, I'll have to start with 2005.
Oh,
I know. Hey, look, ending the 5-game losing streak, which was very difficult to deal with as a fan, by the way. 5 years. I mean, and finally, Vince Young and the boys get us over the hump en route to the national championship. It wasn't a great game, but it was great for us to finally kind of put all that behind us, show up with some confidence and take care of business in the Cotton Bowl that day.
Does Texas fan view that game as the watershed game for that year's team, or the previous Rose Bowl? Like, which game kicked off your championship undefeated run?
It was absolutely the Rose Bowl.
Okay.
It was the Rose Bowl. Okay. And then earlier that year in 2005, they went to Columbus and had to play a really good Ohio State team.
Was Terrell Pryor on that team?
No, it was before Terrell Pryor. It was actually Troy Smith.
Okay.
They were actually rotating quarterbacks. They had him and a kid named Justin Zwick, and they were rotating him. When Troy Smith came in, the offense was great. I know. And they would bring the Zwick kid in, and the offense would kind of stall. I honestly believe if they would have played Troy Smith the entire game, I think they probably would have beat Texas that day.
I remember that. I remember that game now. That was a good game for you guys.
It was. They were loaded. I mean, they had Ted Ginn, Santonio Holmes. So they had that 2, NFL first-round pick receivers. They had a great defense, 2 stud linebackers, A.J. Hawk and Bobby Carpenter. They were loaded in the secondary, too. It's a really good team.
The shoe is probably home to 2 of our respective teams' best non-conference wins of all time.
Absolutely, yeah.
I guess
17.
And we've done it twice now. I think we did it in whenever it was 77, 78.
Okay.
On Huey Von Schaman. And then again with Baker. And then, y'all's win. I mean, those were really big wins for both programs. Okay, so getting back to this 05 game. What was the sentiment going into the game for Texas fan? Did you expect a victory? Were you worried? What are you thinking?
Well, it was pretty clear that Texas was a better team going into the game. OU had some instability at quarterback, breaking in a new one, Brett Bomar. Adrian Peterson had an ankle injury, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
So he was very limited. I think he maybe had 5 carries. He tried to give it a go, but he wasn't healthy. So going into it, we were confident but very cautious because 5 years in a row starts to mess with your head a little bit.
We were not confident.
Okay.
Oklahoma fan was not confident. I think there was if I can put myself back in 05, there was the sense that we owned y'all and that we haven't lost you in so long that maybe just the sheer momentum of having won 5 games in a row is going to push us over that edge. But it really had nothing to do with the way the team was performing. It was how the games have been for the last 5 years.
Well, I just remember you guys losing the first game. I think it was a TCU.
Yeah.
In Norman. This is, before TCU became TCU that we kind of know now. So that was a shocker. And I think you maybe had another loss before Texas that year.
UCLA, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think we lost to UCLA at UCLA. That TCU game was really weird. Paul Thompson got the start for one series. He missed a wide open Travis Wilson on a post pattern.
Okay.
And you wonder what would have happened if you'd have connected with that against TCU.
Yeah.
They went with Bomar. You and I were talking earlier. You thought Bomar had a lot of talent.
He did.
I was never
number 1 quarterback in the country. Everybody wanted him.
I don't know. It was just, and we were so spoiled, right? Coming off of 2 years of Jason White, and even before that, even Hibble was really, really, really good for us. Won a lot of games. But I watched that game. My impressions from the game was we were actually in the ball game.
Yes. Defense was playing well.
The defense was playing really good. You had Dusty Dvorak, Curtis Lofton, Rufus Alexander.
Great players.
Our secondary, we were starting to see the first signs of a not as good secondary as we had previously had.
Not the dominant units that you had in the years prior.
Not the dominant units. DJ Wolf was on that team. Reggie Smith and Edmund.
Well, I thought he was a really good player.
Yeah, but he didn't live up to how good we all thought he was going to be.
Okay.
I remember his freshman year, he returned punts, and we would all chant Reggie, like he was going to be the best punt returner ever. And I can't even remember when he sent back. If somebody can text me one that he returned, great. But I don't remember one. And anyway, you just had our back end wasn't great, but the front end was still really good. I mean,
the front
NFL players,
good.
NFL players across the line, NFL players at linebacker, and we hung in there until Vince Young hits a wide open
Billy Pittman.
Oh,
Yeah.
and then that's that.
I think there was 20 seconds left in the half, too, when that happened.
That's
right
what's
before halftime. Yeah, back-breaking play for sure.
And that's what's so frustrating about it for us is when it happened and you've got them and you can get to if you can get to halftime, maybe you can make a run. Looking back at the replay, though, our offense was not great. Yeah. Or your defense was really good. Who'd y'all have on defense that year?
We had dudes everywhere. I mean, Roger Wright, Brian Robinson at defensive end, guy played 11 years in the NFL. In the secondary, I mean, all 5 guys played at least 7 years in the NFL. All 5 of them, yeah.
Think about that.
Michael Huff, Michael Griffin, Cedric Griffin, Aaron Ross, Terrell Brown. All those guys were, long NFL careers. Incredible talent out there.
And they really did shut down Oklahoma.
They did, yeah.
Because even up to the point, I say we were still in the game, we'd only managed 2 field goals. You had said it earlier. Adrian Peterson actually only got 3 rushing attempts.
3, okay.
The entire game. Clearly hobbled. The guys replacing him, Jacob Gutierrez out of San Antonio.
Yeah, Madison High School.
That's not really a replacement for Adrian Peterson.
No, not when you go from that guy. No,
it definitely drops off. And then the other thing that struck me offensively was our number one receiver, at least in terms of attempts, and who Bomar was constantly looking for, was also our backup quarterback.
Yeah, Paul Thompson.
And I love Paul Thompson, and we've talked about his season, the following season.
He's an Austin area kid, Leander High School.
That's right. And you still see him around the local soccer and basketball scenes up here in Oklahoma City. Yeah, he's still here in Oklahoma City, coaches his kids basketball and soccer, and so you see him all the time. Dude looks like he could still play right now. I mean, it looks like he could just roll out. But he was their number one receiver, and it's just weird. It's like he was a good athlete, and I'm sure he was an okay receiver, but should a guy who was playing quarterback for the previous 3 or 4 years, he becomes your leading receiver?
It was tough. Yeah,
it was disjointed, and I don't know. I just thought y'all were really dominant, and the season went on to prove it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a historically good team, in my opinion. Just in that game, I mean, the fact they got the ball first and were able to, get down there, and Vince Young hits Ramon's Taylor in the end zone on the fade route. You know what's crazy? Here's how dominant that run had been for OU. When he threw that pass to Ramon's Taylor, that was the first touchdown pass that Texas had thrown against OU since the 2000 game.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So 2001, 2, 3, and 4. They hadn't thrown a touchdown pass in any of those games.
And that includes Major Applewhite, who's a pretty good player. Chris Sims, who was a 5-star.
Top player in the country in 1999.
And then Vince Young, who played in the 04 game.
And 03, yeah.
But he started the 04 game, right?
He started the 04 game. He played the entire game.
Yeah.
Go back and look at the 04 highlights and then watch the 05. It's a different, his confidence level. He looked so unsure of himself in the 04 game. And at that point, it's a kind of a point of frustration for Texas fans. They were still trying to make him into something that he wasn't. It was after that game against OU when they said, you know what, let's just put him in a shotgun, let him run the zone read. And literally from that moment, they never lost another game with him as starting quarterback.
My observation of Vince Young in the 05 game, and I didn't watch the 04 game, I remember it, but in the 05 game was how good he played, but also how many wide open passes he missed.
I think he was a little too fired up.
You think so?
I think he was, because he was the most efficient quarterback in the country that year. Completion percentage close to 70%. And again, you guys look, the defense was good that game. Excuse me. The defense was good.
Yeah, I don't think he broke off any ginormous runs. Jamal Charles had that super long run.
80 yards. Yeah, he's a true freshman, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we know. We had to deal with him for a year. By the way, Ramon's Taylor, making my list as a hated player. Like add him to the list. I hated the name.
Yeah.
I hated everything about that dude. I don't. Where was he from?
He's from Belton, Texas. So Central.
I hate Belton, Texas. I hate all of it. And then Limas Swede only had good games against Oklahoma, and I hated Limas Swede too.
Especially in those. He got y'all in 06.
Oh yeah, well, great. 06, I hate Limas Swede and Romance Taylor. But no, I think the game's important. I think the game in 05 reminded the country of how important that OU game is.
Yeah.
The Texas OU game. That for Texas to get that monkey off their back, they probably felt like they could beat anybody. Like you probably felt really good the rest of the year.
Oh yeah, once that happened, it was like we're not losing another game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't matter who, even we were confident going into the USC game.
Greatest single championship performance game ever by Vince Young?
I'd have to say so. I mean, against that, and you remember the hype amongst that around the USC team. I mean, they were being called the greatest team ever.
Well, they're just coming
Heisman winners.
They're coming off of absolutely destroying Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely.
And then you have to go share of the championship the year before, the 03 season.
And then you've got to play them in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I can just remember that game thinking they can't tackle Vince Young. Like they just couldn't do it. He could get whatever he wanted.
Yeah. I don't know if you watched USC play Fresno State, random Pac-12 after dark game that season.
Kevin, I'm going to say I did not watch USC play Fresno State in 2005.
It was one of those,
but anything's possible.
The Pac-12 after dark, it was a late game. They're playing Fresno State. I'm watching it, and Reggie Bush, first of all, has one of the best games I've ever seen a running back have. But at the same time, I watched him give up 40-plus points to Fresno State at home. And I was like, this defense is not good. If they can't handle Fresno State, how are they going to handle Vince Young? So I figured they'd be able to at least score enough and then make enough plays on defense.
Which they did. They did. That game, that was a classic game.
It was.
And Texas, that was one of those things where Texas kind of we focus on the losses a lot of what it would have done to the Big 12, but that reasserted the Big 12's position in title games and in the national perspective. And you kind of felt like Texas was on the verge of another run.
What was it like here? When because I can tell you what I felt kind of when OU won in 2000. I think we talked about that in the last one. Did people care? Were they just whatever?
The big question. So here was the question going into that USC game was, who do you cheer for? Because you hate Texas. You can't cheer for Texas.
Correct.
And here's what was so crazy is this is how good USC was. I think they were on a 31-game winning streak.
I believe so. Yeah. Sounds about right.
And so the idea was, yes, but we can't cheer for USC because what if they break OU's longest held 47-game winning streak? Like everybody was.
Yeah, that is a legit dilemma.
Everybody was freaking out about that. Like if they win this game, we don't see them losing another game.
Yeah.
And I did not root for Texas, but I was experiencing USC fatigue by then.
Yeah.
It was
you couldn't go anywhere without hearing it. I mean,
no, and Will
greatest thing of all time.
You had Will Ferrell out there all the time. Snoop Dogg is on the sideline.
They have the celebs.
Oh,
yeah.
ESPN loved USC. We're seeing that now. They love USC. They think they're getting the LA viewers, and so it was just so much. With the blind kicker. You remember the blind holder or whatever? It's like, I feel like they've showed that kid on every game day for 10 years. And so I got fatigue of the blind guy too. That sounds horrible, but it's true. And so anyway, I won't say I was rooting for Texas, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't unhappy that USC lost because
Fair enough.
I was ready for that to go. All right. Well, hey, I like that. I think we have time to break down game number 2 on our list.
Okay.
Do you feel like that? Do you feel like your game was given enough due?
Absolutely. Oh, one more thing, though. I do
please.
have to talk about Brian Robinson decleating Rhett Bomar and Broad Wright, our 330-pound defensive tackle, running it back for a touchdown. That was kind of like unloading 5 years of of losing in the Cotton Bowl all in that play. And I think when he hit Bomar, he completely took him off his feet. The ball just fell. And it was like 5 years of frustration just being released all in that play. So I had to mention that.
You know, thinking back on it, the fact that it was Rhett Bomar doesn't make me feel as bad as if it would have been some other quarterback.
If it would have been Sam Bradford or somebody.
If it had been Sam Bradford, it would have been gut-wrenching or, anybody else. But Rhett Bomar, that's fine. Go ahead and tee off on Rhett Bomar.
Well, they did.
They did.
Hit him a lot.
And he tried to run the ball. I thought it was weird. They had him running the ball a lot. And
he was a decent athlete. I'm telling you, he was a talented guy.
Well,
anyway. I mean, I know it didn't work out there for a few reasons, but his talent is. I mean, he still made the NFL.
Yeah, no, you're right.
This shows you the type of.
Where'd he go? He went to Sam Houston State, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. My game. Now we get to go to my game. We're going to transition to my first game in the chronological order. And that is the 1996 OU Texas game. Oklahoma is 0-4 entering the game under first-year coach John Blake. Y'all were nationally ranked, but I think you had a loss, right?
Yeah. We were, I think, 3-1.
Yes. But you had beaten us last year, and you had beaten us 4 years in a row.
It was a streak going for sure.
And it just, there was no way we were going to win this game. And then even as the game progressed, there was no way. But to wind it back a little bit, what did the game day experience that you saw on TV, what do you think of the changes from 1996 up till 2021 or 22?
Well, first of all, if you look at the crowd, okay, everybody's wearing white.
Yes. I thought it was so weird.
There's no burnt orange, there's no crimson. Everyone's wearing white t-shirts.
And I wondered if it was on HD, would it have looked different? But no, they were all wearing white t-shirts.
Everyone's wearing white.
Everybody said to themselves, it's really hot in the Cotton Bowl, so you wear white. Are we tougher than people were in 1996? I think so.
I think we have to say yes. Absolutely. Yeah, we're out there in our colors, no matter what the weather is.
I 100% saw that. Number two, I don't know which playback you watched, but did you see Deion Sanders at the game?
I saw Deion on the sidelines.
Supporting John Blake.
Yes. Shout out to Deion. Hey, one of my all-time favorite players.
Listen, primetime, best corner ever?
For me, is at least in my lifetime.
Dude, I love me primetime. I liked him at San Francisco. I liked him with Dallas. I liked him with Atlanta. I liked him playing baseball. I like him as a coach right now. As a football, he's mixing it up and making things uncomfortable. I love it.
Yeah.
But primetime, at the height of primetime.
Yes.
That was pretty big. And other Cowboys were there. I didn't notice the rest of them. Okay, what about the turf?
The artificial turf, the AstroTurf.
Yes, the AstroTurf and the end zones not painted, white block letters that say Cotton Bowl.
Cotton Bowl. That's it. Yeah.
And you think about now, you get the burnt orange in one and the crimson in the other. And in the middle, you get this elaborate Red River rivalry decoration. And back then, it was just hey, you get to play on what you get. So
you play on the field that we have here.
Yeah, it's just what it is. And I got to tell you, I appreciate the progress we made because it looked terrible. It looked terrible on that turf.
It did.
Last observation. Well, no, two more observations. One more observation is those pads made those guys look so big in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, their shoulder pads are up to the top of their helmets. It was insane.
Shoulder pads at the top. On running backs, quarterbacks, Justin Fuentes.
Everybody. How do you throw the ball?
And remember the big neck things?
Yes.
Oh, I love the neck things. Bring the neck things back.
Things, it goes in streaks like that.
Did you wear the neck things when you played?
No, football? that wasn't available to us.
Holmes High School couldn't afford it?
No.
And then the last thing is, I don't know that I saw every snap, but every meaningful snap I saw on both sides, no shotgun.
Everything's under center.
Everything was under center for both teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it stands to reason it would be under center. It was the middle of the 90s, but just to watch it is so, it's not jarring, it's not the right word, but just so funny because now you can't, when we watch our later games, everything's, I mean, the 05 game we just talked about. So we're only talking 9 years later.
Yeah.
And in 9 years,
90% of the snaps are in the shotgun.
90% of the snaps in the shotgun. And I will say the only difference in that 05 game was when Peterson was in, they like to run the eye and have him way back.
Yeah, you give him with a head of steam. I mean, it's a freight train.
They used to, I mean, they would put him like, it seemed like 15 yards behind the center. You know, the line. It was weird. But anyway, but tell me about Texas's lineup in that game.
Well, I think there's a lot of running back talent on the field, really for both teams. Both teams. Yeah, I mean, Texas with Priest Holmes and Ricky Williams in the backfield that day. So, you know, Priest Holmes was an interesting player because he was a talented guy out of San Antonio, Marshall High School in our district.
Yes. And
had so many injuries, he never became the star player that his talent warranted. So he goes to the NFL, you know, he's an undrafted guy with Baltimore, plays a couple years there, and then goes to Kansas City, and next thing you know, he's the best running back in the league out of nowhere.
For 3 or 4 years, he was the best running back in the league.
Yeah, it was incredible to see.
And we haven't even mentioned your Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, Ricky Williams, he's a sophomore at the time out of San Diego, and
he rushes for over 100 yards in that game, though, and he looked good.
I mean, his first game of his freshman year, I think they played at Hawaii, and he's running all over. I'm like, who is this guy? And how is he so big and so fast?
He was y'all's leading rusher and your leading pass catcher in that game.
Yeah,
he could have done it all. And the reality is you, based on the way the game went, you probably hold on and win it if you just run Ricky for the rest of the game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
because y'all had it was a 24-13 lead with 9 minutes to go.
Yeah, you got to lean on. And he's meant for that. He's built for that.
Oh, absolutely.
10 carries in the fourth quarter alone.
Yeah. And to think you had Priest Holmes as well. And it's like you can't run the clock out against an 0-4 Oklahoma team.
Hey, you know, that Cotton Bowl, you know, it's different in there.
It does weird things. Our running backs, we had Damon Parker, who was a stud. He's a freshman that year.
Great player.
And he plays all 3 years under Blake and could have come back and played that first year under Bob. And I just remember thinking after the 99 season was over, how much better we would have done with Damon Parker in the backfield.
He was a really good football player.
Oh,
really talented guy.
And if I'm not mistaken, was it the 98 game where him and who was it from your team just went off against each other?
Ricky.
Oh.
Yeah, Ricky's senior year.
It was so good. And I think Damon Parker had like 2 called back for holding or something like that.
Yeah, he was a great player. He's fun to watch.
And then our other running back, who was more the star of the show that day, was James Allen.
Yeah, another solid. Actually, he's better than solid. Really good player also.
Well, he was really good in that game.
Yeah.
He's that running back that when he first came, people said this is the next great running back in the running back line of Oklahoma. And he could do, he had a spin move at the line of scrimmage. And I think it worked for him one time. And so then for the rest of his career, he spun. And he would run.
Spinning when he didn't need to spin.
And spin when he didn't need to spin and get tackled. And I can remember my dad to this day yelling at the screen, "Stop spinning! Stop spinning!" And you know, in the 95 game, he stopped short of the goal line. Y'all stop him short.
Yeah, Stoney Clark.
But it was so cool to see kind of that redemption for a guy like James Allen, who had gone through a bunch. Go through Schnellenberger, you go through, you know, all that stuff, and to get a chance at being the hero was pretty fun. It was pretty fun. Also, we're missing the lead to this story. It's the first overtime game.
Yes.
It is the first overtime game in the very first year that they have college football. That's the story of OU Texas, is that it
Yeah.
goes to overtime, and it was just amazing.
It was a clutch drive by the Sooners to come back and get that field goal to send it to overtime at the end of the fourth quarter.
Well, and the year prior, the kicker had missed it.
Yeah.
Who was our kicker?
There's a lot of redemption there.
Oh, I'm losing the kicker's name. It wasn't Alexander. That was our tight end. But anyway, he missed it in 95 and came back and hits it in 96. Go to overtime. It's just, man, it was a lot of fun. I thought that call at the end, I think we probably win the game anyway, because we get to we're right there.
Yeah, you're moving it.
But if you've got replay, I think that last second play is reviewed, don't you?
It's definitely reviewed. It's definitely reviewed. They at least go back and look at it. They might not overturn it, but they do look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you didn't have Makovic coaching. Was he coaching that game still?
Yeah.
He was hot.
He was.
He was hot.
Walking off the field, yelling at the ref.
John Blake was so excited, and to finally get a win against Texas. Oklahoma fan wanted John Blake to succeed.
Yeah.
He was the first African American to coach Oklahoma. He was a former player at Oklahoma. He had a pedigree in the pros. Clearly could recruit. The 99 and 2000 game. Not taking anything away from Bob. Yeah, not taking anything away from Bob, but that guy could absolutely recruit.
Yeah, I mean, his national championship came with Blake's players.
But man, he just wasn't a very good coach, I don't think.
Yeah. And not everybody's meant for the top job.
No.
We've seen that in all levels of football. So rest in peace to Coach Blake for sure.
Kevin, 2 games down, 4 to go. I like it. I think for our listeners out there, we're going to give them a break from us, and we'll let them find out the next 2 games in our next podcast. How does that sound?
Hey, stay tuned, because we got some really, really good games, some very memorable moments coming.
Yes. And you know what we didn't talk about, which we're going to talk about in the next episode before we get going, are the honorable mentions. How many games we wanted to include, but didn't. And, it's our podcast, so we can go back and include them whenever we want.
Exactly. We've got time.
But, we'll hit on some honorable mentions. We're going to hit on games, our second pick as the best games that we've ever seen at an OU Texas matchup. But this was fun, man. I'm looking forward to the next episode. For all you listeners, thank you guys. And if you've got any issues with the sound or anything else you want to say, hit me up on Insta. Get me on on my Twitch, and we'll get you. We'll address it, right, Kevin?
That's right. Comment below if you have any questions, any suggestions on topics. And remember, we're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere else you can basically find a podcast. We'll be there. So we appreciate the support.
All right, Kevin. We'll see you later, buddy.
All right. Have a good one, man.